so many people are incarcerated for possession, and you're talking about the easy prey, the uneducated, the socioeconomically disadvantaged. They don't know their rights. Compared to, like you say, the other side of the tracks. And my definition, I want to share with you what my definition of the other side of the tracks is. One example, college campuses. All right. You're in a black or brown neighborhood, and a lot of the police activity, like you said, we're going to go and F with people. It really comes down to possession, right? Or if you're hustling out in the street and you're selling. There's so much more of an emphasis on law enforcement's part to be in those marginalized communities, searching for crimes of that nature, the low-hanging fruit, the drug crimes, where there's just as much, if not taking place on a college campus, but the demographics are very different. And those kids on those college campuses could go about their illegal activity in peace until, and I'll say it, I'm a San Diego State alum. It's cyclical. Seems like every 5 years there's this huge drug bust at San Diego State where they recover X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in name the drug. Well, what have you been doing all along? Allowing drug trafficking, drug possession, assault, sexual assault, rape, all that can take place unencumbered on a college campus, but not over here where Pookie and Ray Ray live. Talk to me about that, because it has to be a conscious, concerted effort to leave the college campuses alone and spend all our time in Long Beach or wherever.
Well, I have a direct example of that, something that I actually experienced coming out of the DA Academy and then going out into now my first field office, trying to come up with as many new ideas to be able to spark investigations, because you're not handed investigations. It's not reactive as in your typical law enforcement where you patrol a beat and you respond to whatever crimes are happening. Here you're kind of you begin your investigations really from scratch. So you really have to be thinking creatively. So in my thoughts as a young naive agent, I said I'm going to go over to Arizona State University, and I'm going to partner with the campus police there, which are sworn peace officers, thinking that they have a desire to rid their campuses of drugs and such. And I said, "Hi, I'm Alfonso. I'm here with the DEA, and I'd like to partner with you. We've arrested several people, and they've said that a lot of their drugs are coming from your campus, and so I'd like to partner with you. And we have the capability to expand investigations and do a whole lot of things that possibly your small campus police department cannot. Would you allow us, or would you at least call me when you get a hold of drugs?" And MDMA was big in those days, ecstasy, and that. Would you allow us to come in and partner with you? There was major headlines that made, the local news that week was somebody was cooking ecstasy in one of the college campus labs. So we knew that this was happening, and it was thought that there were more students in the chemistry labs. And so the response that I got back and really opened my eyes was, "No, thank you, agent. We don't need your help, nor do we really want to hear." And I couldn't understand that in the beginning. And the officer pulled me aside and he said, "I understand where you're coming from, and I would love to be able to use your resources and such, but to tell you the truth, they don't want to find the drugs here." And this came from one of the campus police officers. And he said, "Parents from out of state will not be sending their sons and daughters to campus here if they continue to hear that there's a drug problem on our campus. So we'd rather just kind of keep it on the down low, not expose it too much. So if we bring DEA on campus, that's going to give us too much exposure." So, but aren't you worried about overdose and, all the different things that come with drug abuse?
What takes place when people are on drugs?
And I quickly learned that those are the areas that I should stay away from. And I should go back to where it's easier, the low-hanging fruit. And so sadly, that's where the
Which is
majority
neighborhoods
of
of color.
yes.
So that is, would you say that that's a universal issue inside of law enforcement? Because, you know, you point out Arizona State, I point out San Diego State. Ironically enough, when you go to the Barron's Guide, at least back in the day, those were the top two party schools in the country. Where those two were fighting for that distinction, right? But, you know, I'm a former college coach. I coached on 5 different campuses. All of those issues exist on all of those campuses across the country. And I'm hearing you say that there is kind of a gentleman's agreement, whether it's that's not really spoken, that DC Metro is staying off of Georgetown's campus, is staying off of American University's campus, is staying off of Catholic University's campus unless something extremely egregious happens after the fact. They're not doing any proactive policing on those campuses. Is that a problem inside of law enforcement?
I would say yes, and I'll give you an example that will provide evidence to what we're speaking of. But if we consider cocaine being cocaine hydrochloride, it's a substance that is a Schedule II substance, illegal, a felony. But cocaine and crack cocaine are derived from the same substance, the coca plant.
I know where you're going with this.
And cocaine being used highly by white Americans. I mean, the market is the reason why we have so much drugs coming in, because there's a market for it. And the market in the more affluent white communities, cocaine is being purchased at just staggering numbers. But then you have that same cocaine now being altered to make crack cocaine, which is basically just adding baking soda to it. Now it crystallizes or becomes a rock form, and then now it's sold in smaller quantities. It's
much cheaper
and easily distributed. But that's where the majority of focus went towards, as in we have this major epidemic, is what was portrayed in through our drug war, and on every single media outlet out there was that there's this epidemic of crack cocaine. But we don't look to the other communities where cocaine is still running wild. So exactly to your point, yes, we don't want to focus on those affluent communities and white communities that cocaine is readily available to anybody, but we will go after the crack cocaine that is being used in the marginalized communities, because it's easier to get to. It's cheaper, and you don't need as much. And we see now the problem with the mass incarceration, and so many people are incarcerated behind the crack cocaine.